Tell me your soldier's story. Why? Because it's important. To get from there to here was a series of events, and now it's curated a life. If you're a sailor, Marine, Airman, or Coast Guardsman, sound off. Tell me your sailor story. Tell me your airman story. For me, I was born into this. As the daughter and sibling of service members, enlistment came easy. At the budding age of 17, my mother signed off, and I signed up. I attended basic training at Fort Jackson and advanced individual training at Fort Gordon in Georgia, Signal Corps. Team Army knows from flag to torch. So that was a high-level look at my soldier story. But there's so much more detail and nuance that we'll explore together in this podcasting experience, because my goal is to listen, learn, share, and grow. And although I'm a form of the long-form podcast, you can expect our time to be about 30 minutes. Each episode, I'll introduce you to an academic who will share the difference that an education has made in their experience. It'll be a service member, dependent, or military supporter. Now, I don't consider myself a poet, but you'll become familiar with a stream of conscious that helps me communicate the process. When we came to this place, they explained the rules, but really, there are no rules, just a bunch of common practices. So, I've made this list for you. 10 ideas to help you navigate those common practices. Number 1, a human receives 2 educations, the one given to them and the one they give themselves. Demand the best of both. Number 2, everything worth having is free, so be careful of those who will monetize your love, health, and knowledge. The price will always be more than you can pay. Number 3, love is the answer. Translating the question so all can understand, that's the problem. So learn to say love in as many languages as you can. Number 4, health is a trinity of mind, body, and spirit, and wealth is the karma of what you do with them. Pursuing the monetized while neglecting those free things in life will leave you poor, sick, and lonely, and that's a trinity too. Number 5, knowledge is power, and with power comes great responsibility. Demand the most of those responsible for the knowledge transfer, because with them lies the power. Number 6, everything is a mirror. Look for beauty, and beauty is what you will find. Look for flaws, and flaws are what you will find. So look long and look deep. Number 7, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and the beholder is you. So again, look long and look deep. Number 8, paying it forward is as important as saving for a rainy day. The investment you make in others pays in perpetuity. Number 9, truth, facts, and principles are constants that change, so never be so tied to constants that you can't change. And number 10, the list of life is never complete. Start making lists, cross things off, celebrate, then make another list. The key is never skipping the celebration. So I've been in deep contemplation, and the guest for this episode came into my awareness at the right time. And I'm really honored to share her story with you. She is the mother. She's a part of the parent stakeholder group of service members. Take a listen. Mrs. Marcella C. Stretch was born in Washington, D.C. In 1980, she graduated from F.W. Ballou High School, then went on to receive her Bachelor's of Science degree in accounting from Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. There, she became a member of the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Mrs. Stretch is the mother of 2 U.S. Army combat veterans and a proud supporter of Europe Incorporated, Saving Grace Animal Rescue, her church family, and numerous military organizations. After 37 years, Mrs. Stretch retired from the federal government and currently resides in Upper Marlboro, Maryland with her husband, Louis, where she is the proud mother and stepmother to 5 adult children and 10 grandchildren. She currently serves her physical and virtual community as the founder and leader of the Parents of Deployed Service Members Facebook group. Mrs. Marcella C. Stretch, welcome to the Third Lieutenant Podcast. I'm genuinely excited to have you here. Normally, I open up the interview asking for your story, and what I'm referring to is your service-connected story. And what my guests usually share with me is their sailor story, or their airman story, or even their soldier's story. But lately, I've been talking to families. Last episode, I had an opportunity to talk to the dependent of a service member, and now a parent. And that's where I want to start. I'd like to hear the origin story of the Parents of Deployed Service Members Facebook group that recently hit just under 7,000 members. That's so amazing.
Thank you. The group started and I'm going to say September of 2009. At that time, my son had just deployed to Iraq. And me being a mother, my emotions was different than fathers. Fathers carry a different emotion or don't show any emotion. And different than the siblings and different from the other relatives, concern or level of anxiety is much higher. So I was in a different groups like Army Moms, other military groups on Facebook. And I was even in a group called Support the Troops in Iraq, Support the Troops in Afghanistan. But I noticed that there was no group on Facebook that was geared to parents who were dealing with the roller coaster ride of deployment. So I started a conversation in Support the Troops in Iraq, but I noticed that that group wasn't being managed properly, where people were saying different things that was not appropriate. So me and 4 other parents or 5 other parents, so we said, let's just create our own group. So they made me the leader to create this Facebook group. And that's how PODS was birthed. PODS is our acronym. You know, we were all new as far as being military parents. So at first, the name PODS represented parents of deployed soldiers because we were all Army moms. And then I said, you know, we have to make this inclusive to all the other branches of the military. So I was able to remove the S for soldiers and change it to service members. And that was an easy fix.
Yes, that was so wise of you to have the foresight to be inclusive of all the components. That's 6,000 members. That's a lot of parents. You know, they say that something like 1% of the population serves in the armed forces, but if you think that every service member has 2 parents, you know, it's a lot of parents. But, you know, both of my parents, as I've shared on this podcast, are retired. So I was just accustomed to the culture. And I don't know how I would feel if my 18-year-old enlisted today. He's registered, not currently a service member, but it gives me pause. So do you have service members in your family, like your siblings, your parents, aunts, uncles, or were your children the first time that you had exposure to the military?
It's not a first-time exposure, but it's a first-time close-up exposure. You know, I had nephews that were in the military. I had nieces that had joined the military. I would hear the stories about my mother's uncles and so forth that joined the military. But as far as being close up with it, that was my first.
So I wonder, like, what goes on in your group? What are some of the conversations that you have? What are the common concerns of parents of deployed service members in your Facebook group?
The most common concern that I find with parents is that they feel like they're the only ones that are actually being supportive to their sons or daughters. So to see this group, you know, give them that support that they can't get from their neighbor or they can't get from other family members, and to see that we embrace them, their service member as a whole group, you know, makes them feel a whole lot better.
I remember the first time that I came in contact with you on social media, and I listened to your story. I listened to the work that you and the other parents in your Facebook group do. You talked about how forward deployed units at post offices would get a rush of cards from your parents' group. So tell everyone, what is that activity and how can one get involved?
Okay, that activity, we nicknamed it the birthday brigade, because we look at the military, how they have different brigades. We volunteered to send birthday cards to the service members that are serving overseas. It does not have to be a deployment. It could be just an overseas assignment or a deployment. But in this case, what started this project was my son turned 21 while he was in Iraq. Matter of fact, this month, next week, will be our 11th year sending birthday cards to the service members.
Wow.
So what happened was, I'm the type of person that if I do something for mine, I try to figure out how can we make this for everyone. So what happened was, it just started off something very small where This is when we had less than 1,000 people in the group. And I said, oh, my son's birthday is in a few weeks. How would y'all like to send him a birthday card? So I recruited the people within pods. I recruited family members, co-workers. I just recruited anybody and everybody who wanted to send him a 21st birthday. You know, having your 21st birthday is the milestone. So I said, let's just, rush him with a whole bunch of birthday cards. And that happened. And then I said, you know what? Let's do it for everybody. So then I started maintaining the birthday list. And I'm the only one that maintains this list. And I share the list with any volunteers who would like to send birthday cards out. I have some parents who decide they're going to make bookmarks, something special for that service member, who's celebrating a birthday overseas. I also partner with school teachers who have their students write little notes to the service member who is celebrating a birthday. Some parents decide to add care packages to that birthday, celebration. So it's just been awesome. It's been growing and growing to the point now that I mail out that list every month. And what I do to protect everyone's email address, I send it out blind copy. So no one has no one else's email address. I'm the only one that has it.
So amazing. I'm going to make the assumption that you're familiar with the 6888, the Central Postal Directory Battalion. They were dubbed the 6888. Are you familiar with their story?
No, I'm not.
Oh, wow. I consider myself honored to share information that I learn, especially historical military information. So the 6888s are labeled Women of Distinction, Dedication, and Determination. And this is from the website, womenofthesixtriple8.org. On May 15th of 1942, the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps was formed. And later that year, in July of 1942, the word auxiliary was dropped from the name. So the Women's Army Corps was formed, giving women full military benefits like their male counterparts. The 6888th was the first and only Black female women Army Corps unit to be deployed overseas during World War II. The unit was active from 1945 to 1946 and consisted of 855 women under the command of Major Charity Adams, Captain Mary F. Kearney, and Captain Bernice G. Henderson. Their nickname was the 6888, and their motto was no male, low morale. So these women actually handled the mail during World War II. Yeah, so what you're sharing that you're doing, to me, sounds like it's in alignment. It's in the spirit of those women.
Wow. Amazing.
The morale, right?
Yes.
The love that you're sending forward. In the show notes of this episode, I've linked to the 6888.org website to share their story.
And I can't believe it's been 11 years. My son will be 32 this month. So yes, 11 years.
Well, happy birthday to him.
Yes. I tell him he's the poster child for parents of deployed service members. I said, because of you, because of your service, I feel like this group has touched probably over 800,000 family members nationwide.
Wow.
Now, let me tell you this. Prior to the birthday, because the birthday idea only came up because it was very close to his birthday. But prior to that, because like I said, the group started that September, which was almost 6 months before his birthday. So what happened was when we started in September, we knew that a lot of care packages get mailed around Christmas. It's like boxes come from everywhere by the boatload. I mean, just boxes. All different organizations send out these Christmas care packages. They have Christmas, they have a drive that might start in September so they can get these packages to the service members by Christmas. So what we decided as a group to say, hey, we're going to be ahead of the Christmas crew and go Thanksgiving. So we decided to create this little group, not group, but this project. We created this project, and then we called this project Give Thanks to a Deployed Service Member. And so with this Give Thanks to a Deployed Service Member, we wanted to make sure they received these packages around Thanksgiving because they was not going to be home for Thanksgiving. And what we did was, this is when the group was small. We might have had maybe 500 people in the group. What we did was, instead of me sending my service member a care package, another parent would send it to him. And then we exchanged each other's service members' names. I sent your service member a package and you sent mine. So that way they received packages from people they did not know, versus always just getting a package from that same mother all the time.
Mm. They say it takes a village, right?
And it lifted their spirits. It really lifted their spirits. I'm going to tell you, because there's a box with their name on it coming from someone they don't know. So it really gave them a higher level of appreciation.
I hear you. As a mother, I know my own children. They're grateful, but they don't really understand. They don't know the gravity of what their mothers do for them. Most children don't, right? We give everything from the start, blood and bone density, right?
That's right.
But to know that someone that doesn't even know you is showing appreciation, that's very, very powerful. And what you're doing with the parents in your Facebook group, that's an example for parents in this country, because all of our children may decide at any time to go to the recruiting station, sign up, then voila, we're members of the military family, right?
That's right. We always say we was drafted. We didn't sign up. We didn't sign. We were drafted in.
I absolutely love that. Have you made a T-shirt yet? This is drafted.
No, we have not yet. We was talking about a T-shirt, theme, but we haven't came up with one yet.
You need one. And then the every Friday, remember everyone deployed movement.
Yes.
I could see that.
We recognize that every Friday. We bring recognition to that.
So as a parent of service members, what do you want leaders like me, your children's leaders, to be mindful of?
What I would say, and this is my observation is that a lot of the service members or the people that you may supervise or command, a lot of them are under the age of 30, and a lot of them are single. So you do have some of them that are married who started a family, but I believe the majority, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, the majority of them are single. So I feel like the single ones do not have that connection like the married service members do. It's like a lot of the, like they have family day, or if they have anything that's family oriented, the single service members were like, oh man, that's for them, let me go. So they feel like I don't know if anything is ever done that's just for the singles. I'm not sure.
I hear you. And you never know who's listening to a podcast, right? So I see my soldiers less often than every day. So in the Reserve and the National Guard, we don't have as many programs for single soldiers. But in the active component, I have seen on some installations that I visited that they do have programs for single soldiers. They try to create culture to foster support for that community. Just like you said, when it comes down to it, they'll have family day, and because one is a single soldier, they don't have family to go home and pick up. So they might end up on the KP line serving hot dogs to other people's children because they don't have that family, right? So I understand. So if there are needs that your community has, what are they? What should we be aware of? Military, civilian population, what are the needs that the parents of service members have?
Off the top of my head, I just believe that what needs to be done the most to me is that the service members need to be well informed of what's available to them, their resources. That's what I want to say. They need to be more aware of their resources. And a lot of them do not have the knowledge about the resources that are available to them, before they separate from the military. And I received this book when I became my son, because my oldest son, who's my poster child for parents of deployed service members, he was separated from the military under medical retirement. And under that medical retirement, when he came home, when we went to VA, we registered and so forth, I became his caregiver. So I'm part of the caregiver program. And I always make my parents aware of this program if their service member is eligible for that. The program gave me a welcome package, sort of, kind of. And in that package, there was this book. And I promote that book to the parents as much as possible to say, hey, this is the best resource book that I have seen. And it's called Courage After Fire. And it was written by people who have worked with our service members. What I like about the book the most is that there's a resource section. And in that resource section is listed A to Z, all the available resources that are for our service members and their families. Before the parent version came out, because when I received the book, I received the service member version. That was version number 1. So I said, this is a book that they need to place in the hand of every service member when they come back from deployment. You know, this is something that needs to be in their hand. And this was the first version of that book. So somehow I got connected to the author, and the author that I got connected to was Miss Paula. And that's when she told me that they're working on the parents version. And she had asked me to write something, you know, like a little write-up for her. And I did that. It wasn't part of the book because, you know, they received so many. So, but I was able to at least contribute something to her.
And it's interesting because when we think about the service member, even when we think about the service member's family, we're thinking about the service member, their spouse, and their children. We often don't include their parents in the equation. But as you said, a lot of soldiers are single. They don't have children, they don't have a spouse, but they do have parents. And so there's so many people that are touched as a part of the military family. So when we start to talk about our purpose and when we start to talk about our mission and our American culture, this is just an interesting time for us all to be a part of this family.
That is correct. That is correct.
So what is it that you would like to share? I want to make sure that, you know, I use my platform to communicate or amplify the work of others who are doing amazing work like yourself. You are knitting together, you're weaving together families that I'd love to hear about how the constraints and the virtualization of communication has or has not impacted your community, because it's been built on social media and you all were already geographically separated.
We're just 100% Facebook. So what I do like about the group, and what I have learned so much from the different parents that are part of the group, but one thing I like about the group is the community and the fact that we do come together if necessary. And, you know, for example, if we lose a service member, we will find out who in this group lives near that family, and we will go and support that family in person. We will sit at the hospital. We will do whatever we need to do to support that family member. We will bring food to that family member. We will attend that service, you know, God forbid, if we lose a family member due to the passing. We actually been represented at the different services in the community. But the joy of the group is when I hear parents talk about, I met my best friend forever by just being in this group. I met my cousin just by being in this group. I mean, I was amazed. I thought it was only 2 or 3 parents who found out they were cousins, but it come to find out it was 4 or 5. And I was like, wow. And they just discovered they were cousins by looking at their last names, having private conversations, and say, you know what? Your grandfather and my grandfather are brothers, you know? So that just brings a lot of joy to know that I stepped out of my comfort zone to get this group started. to see it grow to where it is now is beyond amazing. And I appreciate you putting this together. I mean, I'm sitting here smiling from ear to ear, but at the same time wiping tears. So it's just, I'm just so glad we found each other.
And I'm grateful that I found you. This isn't the end of our conversation, because I'm a collector of amazing people. So consider yourself collected. I've been deep off in contemplation about how things are changing, where this is going. So I'm grateful that you've become a part of the Third Lieutenant community. And I have some people that I'd love to introduce you to and ensure that they are aware of your amazing work. And I quote, "She inspires others to overcome their life's obstacles by being a better person, lifting as they climb."
And that's like, people say, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And my main request to people is pay it forward. Just pay it forward. And one of my parents, and I might be pronouncing the last name wrong, but Dharmasiko, I forgot the date of his passing as far as the year, but I think it was August the 10th, if I'm not mistaken. And every year his family have a day where they do a good deed. It's called Good Deed for Dharmasiko. And everybody would post what their good deed was for that day in their community that they did. If it's buying someone a cup of coffee, or if it's paying for someone's lunch, or if it's just giving a child, $5 a complete stranger. So we would all do a good deed for a complete stranger on that particular day.
And it makes a difference, especially when you don't have anything in your tank or your cup, for someone to just come along and pour a little into yours when you didn't expect it. It could be everything.
It was so much fun. And then, matter of fact, when we did our good deed, we explained that was like keeping his memory alive, because we explained to people why we're doing this good deed in his memory and who he, was when he was with us.
Have you heard of the mobile app Ying?
No, I have not.
No? So it's a mobile app that facilitates skill sharing, and they recently onboarded the Blue Star Family Network. Are you familiar with them?
Yes. I'm a member of Blue Star Mothers.
Very good. I'd like to introduce you to Carla Ballard and Jimmy White, the team. What I would love to see, like in a perfect world, is amplification of your group's work using this tool, and I'd be honored to make that introduction. I'm going to ask you to speak on behalf of the mothers and fathers that you represent. I'd like to ask you, what do you wish for your child that is a service member? What do you wish for them?
I wish a life of independence, to the point where I know that he won't fall through the cracks. My biggest wish is that he does not fall through the cracks.
I hear you, and I understand that. From one member of the military extended family to another, it has been an absolute pleasure to hear from you and to hear about your work. Mrs. Marcella C. Stretch, thank you for joining us here on the Third Lieutenant.
You're welcome.
Parents of deployed service members, thank you for all that you do and all that you give. And thank you for listening. I welcome you back next month, where we celebrate 1 year here with the podcast. Listen, subscribe, share, and review to the Third Lieutenant podcast. This message is brought to you by A Man's Cave, a spa for men pop-up. If you're experiencing a crisis, or a friend or family member is in crisis, call 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Press the number 1 for the military crisis line, or text 838255. I say again, that's 838255. From our friends at A Man's Cave, Spa for Men pop-up. Until next time, stay balanced and walk in peace.